In this video, we are going to go over the page layout in Cascading Style Sheet. The objective of the project is to design a professional layout for a chocolatier. We have some graphics and images already compiled. We want to complete this project by designing the page layout to organize these elements using the CSS layout properties. Here is the project, and these are the elements already designed for this chocolate shop, and we want to design a layout for this web page to organize these elements in an attractive fashion. There are 5 types of style sheets in the web. The browser style sheet are the default setting of a web browser, such as displaying a link in underlined blue. Here this diagram shows the hierarchy of style sheets in the web. At the bottom we have browser style sheet. The second is user defined style sheet. It is like changing resolution in the web browser. The third is the external style sheet, which is defined as a separate file with CSS extension, and the other two style sheets are embedded and inline. Embedded are defined within the head element of the web page, and inline is defined as an attribute of an element in the web. When it comes to priority, higher style sheets override the lower ones. But many designers prefer to define their own style sheets called reset style sheet rather than browsers built-in style rules. By defining a reset style sheet, we want to make sure all elements are rendered correctly. So I'm going into the CSS tutorial folder. There is a PC reset style sheet already created in this folder. Here we want to define some rules as reset style sheets. So I'm going to put my name here in the comment section and the date. '22, and then we are going to design some style rules. So for structural styles, I'm going to define some elements to display as block. For example, elements like article, aside, figure, footer, header, main, navigation, and section. I want these elements to display as block. So I'm going to set its display attribute as block. And then for typographical style, I'm going to define some attributes for elements like address, article, block code, body, site, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, heading 5, and elements like footer, figure, navigation, list, ordered list, unordered list. I want to set some attributes for these elements in the reset style. For example, I'm going to set its background as transparent, their font size to 100%, margin 0, padding 0, vertical alignment, baseline, and these are for these elements. And for unordered list, navigation unordered list, I'm going to remove the built-in style set by the browser, like list style to none, and list style image to none. And I'm also going to remove the link and underline from the hyperlinks. Navigation A, set the text decoration to none. So here's the PC reset text, and in the next step I have to link it to our main HTML file. Our main HTML file is PC home txt. This is the HTML file. Okay, so here within the head elements, I'm going to define link. Going to set its href to PC reset txt.css, and then its type to style sheet, ending tag, and I'm also going to link another style sheet for the main elements. Here's the other style sheet is PC home txt. PC home txt.css, and its type again is style sheet. Okay. Save, and then refresh the page. So it's going to change, remove the underline from these hyperlinks, and it is going to make these elements display as block. So these are set in the reset the style sheet. So web page layouts fall into three general categories: fixed, fluid, and elastic. A fixed layout is the one in which the size of the page and the size of the page elements are fixed and usually determined by the pixel. So this type of page layouts are not very flexible, but the second type is fluid layout. They set the width of page elements as a percentage of the available screen width. So this type, fluid layout, adjusts itself automatically with the screen size. And the other type is elastic. Um, and in elastic layout, the size of different elements are determined by the font size. So the best layout is the fluid layout, and the fixed layout is mostly used uh, when we have a constant resolution for other elements. So now we want to organize these elements like this picture. We have these elements. We have a header, and then we have a horizontal navigation list, and it has to be divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. Each of these links takes 20% of the width of this navigation list, and the next section we're going to have two columns. Left column, it takes about 33% of the width of the page, and then the rest is for the right column. And then here we have a horizontal navigation list for different type of cookies, chocolates, and in the footer we have a vertical navigation list. So now we are going to use CSS to change the layout of this web page. So I've already linked pchome.txt.css. So now I'm going to go into the pchome.txt.css and define different elements for this CSS file. So for the body, I'm going to center the body by defining two attributes. First is the margin left to auto, and we will have to do the same for margin right, margin auto. By setting these two attributes, the body is going to be placed at the center of the web page. And I'm going to define maximum width to 960 pixels, and then minimum width to 640 pixel, and I'm going to set its width to 95% of the browser window. Okay, save, and then refresh the page. Okay, so now the body came to the center of the browser, and it takes 95% of the entire window. Now we can move on to the next section and set other elements. For the body header style, body header and image, I'm going to set display to block, and then its width to 100%. Save. Those commands make this image display as block, and it has to cover 100% of the body. So I'm going to reload this page. Okay, Next element is this navigation list. I want these links display horizontally, and each of these links must take 20% of this the navigation list. So I'm going to set navigation styles. So we have to go to the body, header, and then navigation, and then horizontal navigation, list item, I'm going to set its width to 20% for each item. Okay, so in the body section we have navigation, its class name is horizontal navigation, and inside the horizontal navigation we have list items. We are going to divide the navigation pane into 5 sections, 20% for each of these elements, and we want to display them horizontally. Save, and then go to the main web page, refresh. Okay. And we should also set the navigation, horizontal navigation, list item, they must display as block, and then they must be floated to the left. Save, and then refresh. And again, for the links, nav.horizontal navigation. For the link, I'm going to select A. It must display as block, and text alignment to center. So now I'm going to uh, reload the home page, PC home. So it is going to those style sheets, set the navigation pane and divide it into 5 sections for each of these elements, and each section occupies 20% of the navigation list. So now we can move on to the next section. For the we can move on to the left column style. So we have a section named left column, and we have another section right column. So we are going to organize the elements in these two columns. For the left column, section and its ID is right column. That's why we put number sign right column. Then I'm going to set its float to left, and then width to 33%. First left column, clear left, and I'm going to define padding for this column 1.5 em. Save. Okay. And the same for the right column, section, and then right column, I'm going to define this float as left, and I'm going to define its width to 67%. So these two columns must cover 100% of the width of the body. So here we go. This one, the left column covers 33 and right column covers 67% of the width of the window. And this, for these links, I'm going to each of these pictures 1 2 3 4 5 4 must cover 20% of the width of the window. So I'm going to define section and then right column. Under right column we have navigation, horizontal navigation, and then list item, width to 25% for each list item. I missed one semicolon here for the right column, so we can go to the web page and then refresh. So now I'm going to refresh the page. Okay. And in order to organize these images, I'm gonna define a new style rule for the image item. So section, white column, image, so display as block, and then width to 100%. Okay. So I'm going to change the display to block for the right column, save, and then go to the web page. Okay. So now with these style rules, I'm going to refresh the page. And then we can move on to the footer section. For the footer, I'm going to set the background color to RGB 71, 52, and 29, and then I'm going to clear the left side. Go to the web page, refresh, so it is going to put all these elements into the footer. And then for the footer, for its after attribute, I'm going to set its clear both content and display as table. Go to the page and then refresh. And then for the footer, we have navigation list, vertical navigation, I'm going to float its contents to the left, and width for each item is going to be 22%. And then for the footer, section, contact info, these are the contact info. We should set its float to the left and its width to 34%. Semicolon and save. Okay. So now with these style rules, I'm going to refresh the page, and it is going to create vertical links for each of these items. So this way we can set up a page layout for a web page and set different kind of elements like navigation list, header, body, the column of the page, and the footer of the page.